Hello everyone, welcome to our Design of Instructional Visual Media course. I'm Phil Trethaway. In this class, we're going to look at the question, how can we teach through visuals? So starting off, our course goal, our big picture goal for this class is we want to prepare instructional designers and educators to create effective instructional visual media. Now, to reach our course goals, there are some learning objectives that we're looking to hit along the way. Since this is a 5-week summer course, I've split up the objectives over the 5 weeks. Okay, in week 1, we're really going to focus on kind of the background theory that has to do with visual media. And I would like you to be able to define and explain key theories related to designing this instructional media. Okay, we're going to look at the ADDIE model. We're going to talk about cognitive load theory, dual coding theory, and then we're really going to get into how cognitive load and dual coding then inform Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning. Okay, so week 1, a lot of discussions, a lot of theory going on. In week 2, we're going to start our first project. So in week 2, we're going to be designing a portfolio. Okay, our goal is to create an instructional image portfolio that showcases knowledge of a variety of instructional image types. Specifically, we're going to look at the different communication functions that images have. Right? Each picture communicates a different purpose. We're going to talk about how to edit images with computer software. Okay, we're going to get into a little editing. And we're also going to talk about computer-generated diagrams, charts, and graphs, right? How to use some of these technologies and applications to generate instructional media. Okay, so week 2 will end kind of with that portfolio. And in week 3, we get into presentations. Okay, so for week 3, our goal is to design and record an annotated presentation with voiceover audio. Okay, we're going to make something very similar to this video here. To accomplish that, we're going to first create a storyboard that follows Gagne's 9 events of instruction. And we'll talk about those if you haven't heard them before. We're going to build a presentation that implements a range of instructional images. And then we're going to learn how to present, record, and post that presentation. Okay, so we're going to walk through the screen recording, the audio. We'll talk a little bit about green screens. Okay, we'll really get into the technology behind creating these presentations. Now, in week 4, our goal is to build an instructional video. Okay, so not simply just an annotated presentation, but a fully fledged video. We're going to implement our ADDIE model to design an outline for that video. We're going to utilize a range of technology to help create visuals. And finally, we're going to use a video editor to edit those visuals together to create one video that tells a story. Okay, so that's kind of the goal in week 4, is that we're editing videos together and we're going to try to tell a story. And we're going to try to teach through that story. Okay, week 5, the last week of the course, we're going to look at identifying and describing emerging technologies in the world of instructional visual media. Okay, so we're going to look at kind of the new stuff, the trending tech, that sort of thing. We're going to look at 360 video and artificial reality and how those two kind of intertwine. We're going to take a look at animated environments in virtual reality. Okay, a lot of you guys took my course in the spring on game-based learning. Well, that definitely applies here, okay? These animated environments are kind of the extension of that game-based learning and this visual media, right? It's kind of where they meet. And finally, we're going to finish off the course by talking about AI, right? AI is the hot topic right now, and we're going to look at how to generate some of these visual media with AI, be it videos or AI-generated art and that sort of thing. Next up, grading. What does grading look like in this class? There's going to be 10 discussion posts Each will be 10 points, so it'll be 100 points total there. And then we'll have 3 projects that we've kind of talked about a little bit in our objectives already. Okay, there will be an instructional images portfolio that'll be worth 100 points. Be an annotated presentation project worth 100 points. And finally, that instructional video design worth 100 points. Okay, so we'll have discussions kind of spread out. Instructional image portfolio, that'll be week 2. Annotated presentation, week 3. And our video design will be week 4. Okay, so 3 projects, 10 discussions for the class. As far as our calendar, here's what it looks like. Okay, this information is all available on Web Campus. There's also a downloadable syllabus if you prefer a paper copy. Okay, and the way I'd like this to work, the way I've set it up, is there are 4 modules each week. The modules will be posted on their respective day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'd like you to take Friday as kind of a catch-up day or a make-up day. If you miss a module because you're not feeling well, you can knock it out on Friday, or you can use that day to kind of catch up on your project or your discussions. Or if you're just crushing it, then take Friday off and work Monday through Thursday through this little circuit. Okay, but you can see here on week 1, we have our 4 modules. Work will always be due that following Monday. So you can see the work due date there on the syllabus is 6/17 for week 1. And we've already talked about these topics a little bit with our objectives. But in week 1, we're going to talk about our course intro and the ADDIE model, move into cognitive loading, dual coding, and then Mayer's multimedia theory. Week 2, we're going to look at the types of instructional images, the different functions they fill when communicating. And we're going to go over some photo editing and talk about how to create diagrams, charts, and graphs. In week 3, we pick up with analyzing instructional images. Okay, each week, what I kind of want to do is look back at the project before and kind of share some peer feedback. So our discussions after the project weeks will kind of be linked to our project there. Okay, but we're going to analyze those instructional images. From there, we'll look at designing presentations, presentation technologies, and then how to record presentations. Okay, in week 4, we'll look at how to analyze those presentations that we just recorded. Then we'll look into designing instructional videos, some available technologies there, and some video editing basics. And then week 5, the last week for this course, it's a summer course, so it'll go quick. We're going to look at analyzing instructional video, 360 video and artificial reality, animated environments and virtual reality, and then AI-generated visual media. Okay, so a lot of kind of repetition there from the learning objectives, but hopefully that makes sense. Remember, we have 4 modules a week, Monday through Thursday. Those will get posted. Try to knock out 1 a day, and we're using that Friday as our catch-up day. Okay, now that we have kind of the housekeeping out of the way, I want to talk about a little bit of content this week. In Module 1, the main theory I want to go over is the ADDIE model, which is kind of one of the simpler instructional design models. We see it a lot in our coursework here at UNR. Hopefully you've seen it either in your instructional theory class. I know I talked about the ADDIE model in my game-based learning class that a lot of you were in the spring. But if you're new to the model, that's okay. The ADDIE model is basically a general way to help you design instructional materials. Okay, and the way ADDIE starts, it is an acronym where the A stands for analysis, D stands for design and develop, I stands for implement, and E for evaluate. Okay, so these are 5 quick kind of phases that you can go through whenever you're designing a course, designing instructional materials, designing a lesson. And although it's a dynamic model, it is somewhat linear as well. Okay, Usually you're going to start with the analysis phase, go to the design phase, the development phase, and so on. However, a lot of people like to use ADDIE in a dynamic fashion. So although we might go in order with these steps, we also might see something in a later phase that makes us think, I didn't know that. I need to go back because now I have new information and I'm going to restart this model. Okay, so a lot of times people talk about ADDIE as being actually a dynamic model where you can go from one step to another step as soon as new information becomes available. Right? Maybe you didn't know something in your analysis phase, but you learned when you went to implement the lesson, hey, this doesn't work. I need to change right now. And you have to adjust on the spot, right? I think anyone that's taught has kind of intuitively done that, right? If something's not working, hopefully you adjust. But a lot of times when they talk about the ADDIE model being dynamic, that's what they're referring to, that at any one of these steps here, we can actually go back to another step. But you can see how messy that is. So a lot of times with ADDIE, they keep it circular, they keep it simple, but it is a dynamic model. You can go to different steps and different phases. Whenever you learn something new, feel free to go back and tweak. That's what's nice about ADDIE is you're always tweaking, you're always looking to improve, you're always looking at the next kind of iteration of your lesson there. Now let's talk about some of the actual phases. Okay, so in the analysis phase, what happens there? Well, in the analysis phase, a lot of times you're going to write your lesson or your course goal. This is at a generalized level. So this was like the course goal that I gave you at the start of our presentation today. The course goal is usually pretty general. We're not talking specifics. It might be measurable or it might not. You might have to further kind of define that goal in your learning objectives so that you can actually measure something specific. But I like to keep my course goals very general, very much what direction do I want this course to move in. And then from there, you can take that general goal and you can apply your instructional analysis, right? You can look at, well, what content do I need to teach to reach this goal? Okay. What would my learners need to know to be successful? What does mastery look like is the big idea with the instructional analysis and kind of breaking that down. And that'll vary by topic. Some topics get very specific. Like I taught high school math for years, and you can very much specify mastery down to, what type of numbers you're using and how many steps it takes to solve the problem, and you can get very specific. And in some areas, maybe that's less specific. But the important thing is you're looking at what you want to instruct, you're figuring out what that mastery looks like, and then you're trying to figure out how can we get our students there, right? Which is where this next step comes in. Our learner needs analysis. What do our learners need? I know where I want my learners to go. I've learned that in the instructional analysis. In the learner needs analysis, we're looking at how do we get that learner there. Okay, where are they starting? What prerequisite knowledge do they have? What prerequisite knowledge maybe do we have to review so that they understand the new content? Right, so that's the type of thing happening in that learner needs analysis. You're wondering, what are my students' current knowledge level? And what will they need to learn to achieve mastery? Okay, a lot of times that gap between their current knowledge level and what we want to achieve is called the knowledge gap. And you're trying to, as an instructor, figure out how to bridge that gap, how to help learners scaffold their way gradually to that mastery, right? How do we break content into chunks? So all that stuff happens because we know what our learners need and we know where they're currently at. Hopefully, in an ideal world. Sometimes you don't know as much about your learners. And finally, in the analysis phase, there's also some resources that are being analyzed. Right? We need to know what resources and tools are available. Okay? Obviously, for an online course and an in-person course, you're going to create that differently. So what resources and tools are out there definitely has to also be part of that analysis phase. Okay, next we have our design phase. This is where we start taking all that analysis and we start putting it together to try to figure out a plan for our course or a lesson or activity or whatever we may be designing. Okay, so a lot of times in that design phase, you're determining that course structure, that lesson structure. Right? We're breaking our content into chunks. We're determining our pacing, right? How fast can we go to have students keep up without overloading them? How fast do we have to go to keep pace, right? There's a lot of things that come into play here, but that's kind of what you're figuring out during the design phase of ADDIE. We're also writing our learning objectives. Okay, these are much more specific and measurable than our course goals. Okay, a learning objective is something you want to be able to turn into an assessment. Something you can look at and say, okay, how can I test that? And if it's obvious how to test that, or if it's obvious there are several ways to test that, that's a good learning objective. Okay, if you read a learning objective and you think, man, I don't know where to go from here, it's probably not a great learning objective. It might need to be rewritten. Additionally, in the design phase, we're also going to start to organize our resources and create an assessment plan. Okay, just how I was talking about with our learning objectives, you should be able to tell how we're going to assess that. Well, we need to develop that plan, right? We have to determine what resources and assessments are already available, or we have to determine what needs to be created. Okay, so in the design phase, we're not actually creating anything yet. We're just solidifying our plan. We're figuring out what we need to do, what we already have, and kind of where we're going from here. Now, in the development phase, we're going to start to actually build our materials. Okay, so the development phase is all about developing those instructional materials. It's about creating them. Right? We're going to make our lesson plans in this phase. We're going to create our warm-up activities, our presentation materials, note takers, practice assignments, assessments, right? Anything we need for our course that has not been already created for us or not something we've been able to find already, we want to create that during the development phase. The implementation phase next is when we want to plan and execute the lesson. Okay, so you have your plan, you have your materials. Now we need to figure out who's going to teach the course, who are we going to teach it to, what time are we going to teach it, what place, right? A lot of these questions are very simple. If you have a classroom, right, we're going to implement it in our classroom on Monday, right? But sometimes if you're designing maybe instructional materials for a company, this might look more like a prototype scenario than just running it in your classroom. Or maybe you're implementing it for a small group if it's an after-school training or something like that, and you're collecting feedback, right? So the implementation phase can either be you're implementing a prototype or a sample lesson, or you're implementing the real thing. But either way, as we're implementing that lesson, we want to be collecting feedback as we go, right? We want to collect that formative feedback during the lesson, and we want to collect that summative feedback at the end of the lesson to kind of see how we're doing, to see what changes need to be made. A lot of times, if you're implementing the lesson live, you'll make changes as you go. If students look confused, if students get stuck on something, right, adjust. Maybe you add in one more step, or maybe you add in one more little mini lesson on the side, or walk them through how to solve something. But that all happens in the implementation phase, when we're actually running the lesson. Okay, and the final step in the ADDIE process is evaluation. Okay, this is after the lesson has been run. We're going to take a look back at everything and evaluate. How did it go? How did we do? Okay, so we're going to assess our lesson feedback. We're going to ask ourselves, were students successful? Right? Did this lesson help them reach our learning objectives? Was the lesson efficient? Right? Were students engaged? Were students off task? What did that lesson look like? And the biggest reason we're looking at this feedback, at this data, is we want to know what improvements can be made to the lesson. Some of these improvements can be made in real time, okay, where maybe you get some formative feedback during the lesson. You evaluate it. Hey, I need to add in this. Hey, I need to change that, right? Like we were talking about that dynamic aspect, where sometimes you'll tweak lessons as you go. You'll evaluate on the fly, and that's okay. That's great. I think that's good instruction. And sometimes you don't get that evaluation till at the end of the course, or maybe like in UNR's case, I think we get our eval data a couple weeks after the semester ends. So in that case, it's, well, what improvements can be made next time, right? In our next loop of this ADDIE cycle, when we go to remake this course, how can we do it better? But that's kind of the goal with our evaluation phase. Now, to tie all this together, the reason I wanted to do ADDIE with our course intro is because I see a lot of similarities here, right? I just used ADDIE to try to design this course. And a lot of the things we talked about were outputs from that process, right? So in the analysis phase, that's where I got the course goal for this course. That's where I got the idea for our learner analysis, where I want to ask you guys some questions about the course and kind of figure out what roles you see yourself in and how you're going to be using visual media, so I can help kind of figure out what you guys need. And I also determined our course format during the analysis and kind of how I wanted to break it down. From there, in the design phase, I figured out our course pacing and made the calendar. I wrote specific learning objectives. I located learning materials that support those objectives. And I developed an assessment strategy, right? How am I going to grade this course? Well, that comes up in the design phase. In our development phase for this course, I created the course shell, presentations, videos, discussions, quizzes, and projects. Okay, all of those had to be created to run this course, which we're doing now with the implementation phase, right? We're running the class. I'm going to be collecting feedback as I go, checking your discussions, checking your projects, seeing how things are going. And then I'm going to use that information in the evaluation phase to make decisions, right? To make tweaks to the course as we go. Or maybe I'll have to add in a section covering this theory. Or maybe I can cut a section out if you guys have a really good grasp of things. But I wanted to tie that together, the idea of ADDIE and our course, so that you guys can kind of see these parallels. I think ADDIE is a very useful model. It's very basic in terms of its structure, but to me it's very logical. You know, it's a good, steady way to approach learning. That way you're always kind of checking your boxes and making sure you're going through the right steps. Okay, so that's the ADDIE model. That's the ADDIE model and how it's applied to this class. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I know a lot of you have seen it before. Remaining tasks as far as today. Okay, reading wise, I'd like you guys to take a look at the syllabus. Is the big thing today. I don't have any big articles for you to read. I know it's day one. Just check through that syllabus. Make sure you're comfortable with the course format, right? Click around on Web Campus and just kind of see what's there. So far, it's just module 1. So there shouldn't be a whole lot to overwhelm you. I'm going to post those modules daily, Monday through Thursday. So just kind of check back each day, see what's available, see what's out there. Other things today, we have Extend Your Learning. Okay, some readings there. There's some ADDIE resources from University of Washington as well as Penn State. Okay, so if you're still a little shaky on the ADDIE subject, there are some Extend Your Learning opportunities there. Okay, you can feel free to skim those. Feel free to watch them in detail. Sometimes there'll be videos, sometimes it'll be text kind of in that section, but that's for your benefit so you can kind of better understand. I would recommend at least taking a look at those before trying out the quiz. Okay, the quizzes will always be practice quizzes. Okay, the quizzes are not graded in this class, but I just wanted a way to give you guys a little bit of feedback. You can kind of check your understanding as you go. I think the 1.1 quiz is 6 questions, so it's nothing crazy. Just a quick little quiz to make sure you're on track each day. And then finally, our assignment for today is going to be discussion 1. So make sure you're checking that. Yeah, let's go take a look. Okay, here's our course homepage, which hopefully you guys have found already. Just has some quick information here, as well as a list of quick links on that first page. If you want to check out our syllabus/calendar, you can click the first link. There's an instructor page if you'd like to know more about me. And you can find our modules by clicking on these weekly pages. That'll be kind of updated as we go. So far, the first module available is 1.1, since that is for Monday, 6/10. And if you click that here, you can see the PowerPoint. There will be a link to this video once it's finished as well. There's a link to that syllabus, since I asked you guys to read that this week. Some extend your learning options from the University of Washington and Penn State. Our quick quiz. And finally, discussion 1. So discussion 1, what I'd like you guys to do with these discussions is I'm going to give you questions whenever we do a discussion. Try to address those questions in an initial post by that Friday. So in this case, I'd like you to answer these 4 questions by Friday, 6/14, this Friday. That way, your classmates can respond to this post. Okay, we're going to reply to 2 posts of our classmates by the end of day next Monday. Okay, so due date wise, I don't have like a specific time of day. If you turn in 5 minutes before midnight, that's fine. But just try to get it on the day of. Okay, remember our initial post is by Friday, and then 2 replies by that next Monday. Okay, for discussion 1, we're going to look at introductions. I don't need that part there. I'm going to delete that. But we're going to look at what name would you like to be called, what pronouns you prefer, what program are you in or enrolling into, right? Just trying to figure out who's in this class, what programs are you guys in or joining. That'll kind of give me an idea of where this course should be headed. I would like to know, what do you currently do for work? And what professional role do you see yourself in when you graduate your program? Okay, if I have a course full of administrators, or a course full of high school teachers, or a course full of elementary teachers, right? Kind of whatever role you see yourself in, that might change how we're going to teach this course and talk about these course concepts. So once again, that learner analysis, I'm just kind of probing that. I want to see what you guys are into, where you guys see yourselves applying this material when we're done. I'd like to know what you're hoping to get out of this class. Okay, you've kind of seen what I'm hoping to teach you. I'm curious, what are you hoping to get out of it? Which of these topics kind of sound interesting to you? And since we talked ADDIE today, I just thought I would ask, are you familiar with this model and how have you used it before? Just to kind of gauge if today was enough of an intro or if we need to maybe talk about ADDIE a little more in detail as we go. Okay, so this is discussion 1. What I'm going to do with these discussions is I'll include a little breakdown at the end. Okay, we have 4 questions this week, so each question is 2 points, and each reply is going to be 1 point. Okay, so that's kind of our goal. So look through those materials this week, answer that discussion, reply to some classmates, and then you can check back tomorrow as we start to look at cognitive load. Okay, so everyone have a great day. Feel free to message me in Web Campus or message me by email if you need help with anything. I'm going to hold off on the office hours for this class because I found in the spring, just people didn't really utilize the fixed office hour. So if you would like to meet, let me know. Please just reach out. Let me know. I am very available. I would love to meet with you and help you out, but I don't like sitting in the empty Zoom meeting for an hour. every week. And that's kind of what the office hours turned into. So please, if you need help at all, I am very available. I'm here to help. But just shoot me an email and let me know, hey, I want to meet on this, and we'll figure out a time. Okay, so that's what I got for you guys. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you tomorrow as we talk cognitive load.